Bonjour, this is Madame Veneman, and in this video, we are going to talk about calculating weighted grades, okay? Myself and many other teachers use a weighted grading scale for our classes. And even though we're very lucky nowadays to have programs like Progress Book that do all the math for us, I've found that unfortunately sometimes that means that students and parents don't always completely understand then how their grades are calculated. So I think it's important to make sure that we understand how your grades are calculated on a weighted grading scale, on a weighted grading system, and you'll get some tips and hints along the way as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the three different categories, okay? When you're using a weighted grading system, each assignment is going to fall into a different category, right? So the categories for grades in my classes are activities and assignments, which are worth 25% of your overall grade, assessments, which are worth 50% of your overall grade, and then participation, which is worth 25% of your overall grade. Okay, so I just made up some grades here for an imaginary student named Jacques, okay, let's say. And so we've got a few activities and assignments, we've got a couple of assessments, and we've got a couple weeks of participation here. Let's say looks like we're still pretty early on in the year here, right? Okay, so how would we calculate Jacques' overall grade? Well, the first thing that we want to do is we're going to add up the amount of points that he earned versus the amount of possible points, okay? So if we do that here for activities and assignments, we see that he has 4.5 out of a possible 6 points, okay? And if we divide that to find his average, okay, for activities and assignments category. And his average for that category is 75% right now, okay? This is the really important thing with weighted grading scales. You want to look at your average for each category, okay? We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Now, for the assessments category, he has, if we add his earned points divided by, or in possible, he has 18 out of 20 points right now, which is a 90% average for assessments. Pretty good. And then lastly, if we look at participation, we add those up. He has a 17 out of a possible 20 points for participation, which gives him a participation average of 85% right now. Okay, so we now have his averages for each category. We see that assessments are the strongest. Participation, he's doing pretty well as well, but really needs to pick it up on activities and assignments, okay? So to calculate then, to continue calculating Jacques' overall grade, we have to take his average in that category multiplied by the weight for the category, okay? So we'll take this 75% and we're going to multiply it by 0.25, and what we get is 18.75. We're going to do the same thing here with assessments. We take 90%, we multiply it by 0.5 for assessments, 50%, and the result we get is 45. And last but not least, for participation, we take that 85% average, we multiply it by the weight of 0.25, and we get 21.25. Our final step to calculate Jacques' overall grade is to add these three numbers together. And when we do that, we wind up with an 85%. So Jacques' overall grade in the class right now would be an 85%, okay? So that is how you calculate your overall grade on a weighted grading scale, okay? Now, a couple of little pitfalls that I want to warn you about, okay? Sometimes students will look at maybe like homework assignments, 3 points, 2 points, 2 points, and they think, that's not worth that many points, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. You know, look at these assessments, they're worth way more points. So I'm not going to worry about doing activities or assignments. I'm just going to worry about getting good grades on assessments. Well, the thing is, you cannot compare points across different categories like that on a weighted grading scale, okay? And let me give you, for instance, let's pretend that maybe for activities and assignments, I did make them worth a lot more points. I usually don't. I don't know why. That's just a habit I've had since I was starting teaching. But let's imagine that now I gave 30 points for this Quizlet activity assignment, 20 points for this Kahoot, and 20 points for this Gimkit. But Jacques still maybe turned in these Quizlet activities late, so he only got half credit there. He still did well here, got 20 out of 20, 100% there, but he still only did like half the Gimkit, so he got a 10 out of 20 there, right? So he would now have 45 out of a possible 60 points. And guess what? That is still a 75% average for activities and assignments, okay? So his grade actually would be the same, whether or not he had a 45 out of 60 points for activities and assignments, or whether it's a 4.5 out of 6 for activities and assignments, okay? So just make sure that you're not comparing points across categories. I hope that makes sense. So another tip that I kind of want to point out here is sometimes students will think, oh, let's imagine this scenario, right? Okay, let's say we're looking at Jacques' grades here again, and let's imagine that we took a chapter 1 test, and Jacques did really well on that. He's like, oh, I got a 22.5 out of 25. All right, that's a lot of points. That's definitely going to boost my grade up. Okay, well, let's do the math, right? So if we add up the amount of points he's earned versus the amount of possible points, he has 40.5 out of 45. And if we divide that, his average for assessments is still a 90%, which will still result in this same number, 45 over here. So that actually won't have changed his grade. Well, that will not change his grade at all. He would need to get a score that's higher than his average of a 90% on an assessment in order to boost this up and boost that number and boost his overall grade, okay? So the biggest tip that I can give for weighted grading scales is look at your averages for each category, and then wherever you are the weakest, that's where you need to really concentrate and put in work. And that, if you can increase that average, that's going to help increase or boost your overall grade more quickly, okay? So we'll look at an example of that. Let's say we're back to this good old starting grades here with Jacques, okay? And let's imagine that Jacques says, okay, I've really got to work on activities and assignments. I got to make sure I'm getting them done on time, all that. So there's another assignment. It's an Edpuzzle video for chapter 1. He gets it done on time. He gets a 3 out of 3 on it. So now, instead of 4.5 out of a possible 6 points, he has a 7.5 out of 9, which when we divide that out to find his average for activities and assignments, that comes out to an 83.3%. When we multiply that average by the weight, we now have a new number, 20.83. And if we add that to our assessments and our participation, his overall grade now is an 87.08. Okay, so just that one little homework assignment boosted his overall grade by 2%. Okay, so really make sure that you're looking at your categories and your averages for each category, because that's going to show you where you need to improve. Okay, now one more thing we're going to talk quickly here about is Progress Book. Okay, so Progress Book, this is a fake one that I made up years ago, okay? Progress Book does this annoying thing, in my opinion. By default, when you look at your grades on Progress Book, it always lists them by the date. So basically, you just get this big long list of assignments, and they're put in order by the date they were due, and there you go. That's about it. That's what you get to see, okay? But that is not the best way to look at your grades, especially for any class where you have a weighted grading scale, okay? So what you always want to do when you come onto Progress Book, you want to find where it says View By, okay? And instead of, like I said, it will default to the date, but instead of that, you want to click on type, okay, view by type. And when you do that, what happens is you get to see your grades like this, and it will show you each category, the weight for that category, and then it will show you your overall average for that category, okay? So it gives you a lot more information. And like I said, since averages for each category are the important thing, this is going to help you out a lot more to look at your grades this way. Okay. So that's my number one tip for Progress Book is go to view by and select type. Okay. So that you can see each category. All right. My number two biggest tip for Progress Book is to always look and see if there are comments. Okay. Madame is known for typing in lots of comments. It's one of my means of communication with students and parents. Okay. So for instance, here it says Chapter 0 quiz. You can see where I've typed in how you did or how the student did on each section of the quiz. So listening section, 90%, class expressions vocab, 98%, adjective agreement, 85%, right? So that way you can see, oh, all right, listening, I'm pretty good. The vocab, I'm awesome. Ooh, adjective agreement. Okay, I might want to work on that just a little bit more. Okay. And then I usually as well type in the overall quiz average so that you can kind of see, hey, am I doing all right? Or am I maybe falling behind a little bit, right? Okay. Another thing with comments, if you look at our homework assignments category, I will type in if it was graded for accuracy, if it's graded for completion. I will type in if you get bonus on it. I'll put in the overall average usually for the assignment as well. If you are absent and maybe you didn't get an assignment turned in because you were absent, I will type in the date of your absence and now when it is due for full credit. Okay, so that is my number two biggest hint for Progress Book is read the comments. They can be very, very helpful to you.